Good morning, friends. This is Raj here. Welcome to ShareTreck. Today is the 5th of September and the markets are closed. Actually, I was planning to release part 3 of Celebrating Innovations, but got distracted by a company that has a promising new approach to treating genetic disorders. The company I'm talking about is heading into the clinic with what it claims is the first engineered B-cell gene therapy cleared for in-human studies. The FDA has granted its therapy called ISP-001 an orphan drug designation as well as rare pediatrics disease designation for a condition called MPS-1. I'll talk more about MPS-1, explain what it's all about later on in this video. The phase 1 study is expected to launch later on this year, and this opens a new chapter in treating genetic diseases. So since the discovery of CRISPR-Cas9, we have come a long way. So let's get started. Welcome back, friends. Before I disclose the name of the company, let me talk about 3 concepts that we need to understand in order to appreciate how unique the company's approach is and why I'm excited about it. Here's the first concept. We all know that there are various cells in the human body and they have different functions. One of those cells is the B cells, the immune system cells that actually make antibodies, churning out as many as 10,000 antibodies a second. And most of these antibodies persist after an infection and can stay for years in our bone marrow. It's now possible to engineer B cells so that they manufacture other proteins and enzymes instead of antibodies. And this opens up a lot of new opportunities. There are many genetic disorders that result in underproduction of certain proteins or enzymes, which lead to other systemic problems in the body. If an engineered B cell were programmed to manufacture those proteins and enzymes, those disorders can be effectively combated. That's at the heart of this company's new approach. And here is the second concept. When gene therapies use viruses to get new DNA into the body, the patient will automatically develop immunity to such treatment going forward because the body is finely tuned to recognize virus vectors and develop immunity to them. This means any such therapy which is derived by using viruses to deliver DNA payload is going to wear off, and after that there is no second chance for the patient with the same therapy because the body will no longer respond to it. And with that said, let me talk about the third concept, which we have spoken about earlier also in many of our videos. This is the concept of myeloablation. Myeloablation is where, in case of a stem cell mediated gene delivery, patients must undergo excessive chemotherapy to knock out the patient's immune system to make room for new modified stem cells. Myeloablation can be a highly toxic and unpleasant procedure, and this can potentially compromise the success rate, potency, and efficiency of a therapy. Knowing these 3 concepts helps us understand and appreciate Immusoft's approach even better. Immusoft plans to harness B cells to treat rare inherited disease called MPS-1. They are able to do this by engineering B cells without using virus delivery mechanism, and that therapy does not require myeloablation. And as you can understand, this overcomes the major constraints that could prevent therapy from being successful. And therefore, I'm really excited about this particular company and its therapy. MPS-1 is a rare genetic disorder that affects many body systems and that leads to organ damage. It's caused by an alteration in the gene that makes an enzyme called alpha-L-iduronidase. Because of this alteration, cells either produce the enzyme in low amounts or cannot produce it at all. The enzyme is needed to break down substances called GAGs, which are byproducts of chemical reactions in the body cells. If GAGs are not broken down, they build up in the cell, eventually leading to the cell, tissue, and organ to get damaged. In MPS-1, GAG engorged cells accumulate and displace healthy normal cells in both tissues and organs, such as the liver and spleen, and even in bones, causing a host of signs, including skeletal deformities, coarse facial features, and an enlarged liver and spleen. Immusoft's approach is to engineer B cells so that they manufacture other proteins instead of antibodies, or manufacture other enzymes instead of antibodies. For MPS, what is needed is an enzyme whose absence causes diverse and devastating symptoms. Patients with illness are currently treated with weekly infusions of the missing enzyme, but it's not enough to cure the disease outright, and you need constant infusions that as a quality of life issue as well. Immusoft says it can engineer B cells to produce the enzyme instead. The MPS treatment from Immusoft, which is set to be tested within the next 6 months at the University of Minnesota Medical College, is the first study in humans of new type of gene therapy using genetically engineered B cells. To reach this stage, Immusoft had to first spend several years working out reliable ways to add genes into B cells, and they wanted to avoid using virus vectors. Instead of using viruses or gene editing to make genetic changes, the company now employs a transposon, a molecule that likes to cut and paste DNA segments. I do not have much information about transposons, but I'll try to find more information and bring it to you in a separate video. But suffice to know for right now that the company employs transposon to cut and paste DNA segment to modify the B cells and engineer them to produce the necessary enzymes to prevent MPS-1. We need to remember that this approach is autologous and hence no immune suppression challenges accrue, and therefore the potency and success of this therapy is likely to be much higher. It's my opinion that if this therapy called ISP-001, which is entering clinical trials right now, succeeds, then it will open up the possibility to treat other metabolic disease caused due to enzyme deficiencies. We should therefore watch this process and the progress of this company in its clinical trials because there will be more opportunities in this area. There is growing evidence that if added DNA ends up near cancer-promoting genes, there is a danger of turning them on and inducing cancer. And this factor has made it very difficult for Immusoft to convince FDA to allow this trial. It took them a lot of time, and finally FDA is now convinced to allow in-human trials. And therefore, I think this is a major hurdle that has been crossed by Immusoft. It's been a long time in the making, right from 2009 onwards to date. The company has been working diligently. Now let us look at the company itself. First, let us check out their website, and then we'll look at the funding and other details about this company. Here we are in the website of the company, and the tagline reads, "Programming B cells to deliver novel therapies for patients." I would like to first go to the approach section because they have the 6-step diagram out here, which very clearly explains what they do. They first collect the blood from the patient to harvest the B cells. Then they select and purify the B cells. And the next step is to use a non-viral gene delivery mechanism to provide the additional DNA into the B cell in order to produce the desired enzyme. And next, what they do is they expand and differentiate using proprietary cell culture method. The programmed B cells are expanded and differentiated into plasma cells and plasmablasts, which are biofactory cells optimized for the production and secretion of the therapeutic protein or enzyme. And then they infuse it back into the body, and it goes to work in the body, delivering those enzymes or proteins. So this is the mechanism by which the ISP works. When I look at the pipeline out here, you can see ISP-001 is the most progressive of all the therapies that they have, which has crossed the enabling stage and is entering into the clinical trial phase. You can also see that they are targeting MPS, ALS, Pompe, and Gaucher. These are all the different syndromes that occur due to lack of certain enzymes or proteins. And if ISP-001 succeeds, it opens up the avenue for multiple therapies out here, and it's going to be really revolutionary. So I think that we need to watch this company going forward. Now, in terms of the leadership out here, we have Sean Ainsworth, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Robert Sikorski is the Chief Medical Officer, and Rob Hayes is the Chief Scientific Officer. And we have the board of directors, the usual structure with the scientific advisory board. So that said, let me talk more about the funding of this company and how much money they have raised and how they are doing. So here is a brief history of Immusoft. Established in 2009, Seattle-based Immusoft is still a privately held company, and that's the reason why you don't see them being quoted in the stock exchange. But sooner or later, they might come up with an IPO, so we got to watch this company. So far, they have raised $41 million from 24 investors, including the likes of Peter Thiel, California Institute of Regenerative Medicine, and Breakout Ventures. Somewhere in 2016, the company acquired Discovery Genomics, a pharmacogenomic testing company. Discovery Genomics applies cutting-edge technology to examine and identify the links between a person's genetic makeup and their potential response to different medications, helping to ensure that each patient receives the right dose of the right medication in the right combination based upon their biological needs. And now, 6 years later, armed with the orphan drug designation, Immusoft enters clinical trial stage for their ISP-101. As retail investors, we need to keep track of this study, and I will try to keep track and bring to you the latest updates on the progress of this clinical trial. Well, friends, this brings me to the end of this video. I hope you liked the video. In case you did, please do not forget to press the like button to let me know that my efforts are appreciated. Also, please subscribe and press the notify button to not only help us grow this channel, but also to be notified of our twice daily video drops, which are mostly in the area of genomics and share trading. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now. I hope you have a great weekend.